All right, thanks. Well, we have been talking a lot the last few days about the Fast and Furious program. This is where the government had a plan to let guns go into Mexico so that they could track them. They didn't do that very well, apparently, and those guns ended up in the wrong hands and lost in Mexico, some being turning up at crime scenes, including where a U.S. agent was killed. Well, our political analyst, John Dadian, joins us here this morning to try to look into how this is maybe affecting the Obama administration, the campaign and so forth. How much of this is political, how much of it's legal, and whether the public really understands what's going on. So, John, welcome this morning.
Good morning.
Hello. How are you?
I'm well.
This thing has been around for a long time. And if it hadn't been for local Congressman Darrell Issa, I'm not sure that this thing ever would have really made it onto the front pages, even though there's some very serious things going on here.
And this is a good example when I always crack up. We're in the election season right now when people says a vote doesn't count. Our local congressman now is on the national stage making a big impact and literally, no pun intended, affecting the future of our country.
Does the public generally understand, you think, pretty well what's going on here with Fast and Furious, or has the fact that the family of a deceased agent finally coming forward and really speaking publicly, is that finally put a human face on it to where the public can relate to it?
And that's exactly what's happened. It really has humanized it, because when you have the mother getting up and saying, the reason I want this to happen as far as the release of documents, I don't want anybody else's son to be killed, people understand that. They understand that very quickly, and that's only happened within the past week.
And as you and I were talking during the break here, they don't necessarily understand what the Attorney General even does or what his involvement is with this type of thing, but when you see a mother grieving, that makes sense. Well,
they don't understand what the term executive privilege means, but they understand the grieving mother.
There may be hundreds of Mexican citizens who lost their lives because of these weapons as well, and we haven't heard much back from Mexico on this.
Well, what really is, what surprised everybody this past week is the fact that because of executive privilege, now the president has injected himself. The president now is involved. Before, you know, it was the Attorney General. That was where it was going to stop, right, so to speak. And that's why this is such a big national story now that it wasn't a week ago.
Okay, so now the president steps into this. Now it becomes pretty significant politically, does it not? Because, I mean, immediately there's this implication, well, there must be something in those documents relating to the president, or why would he step in?
And of course, as like everything you and I discuss, there's arguments on both sides. The Democrats are saying that the Republicans are doing this for political reasons, and it really is going to stretch out through the summer, et cetera. And the Republicans are saying now, why is the president, doing it? Now, let's be fair. Presidents exercise executive privilege. Bush did it 6 times. Clinton did it 14 times during his term. So,
and this is Mr. Obama's first time to have done this.
First time, right. First time. But really the question politicos like me are looking at is why this particular issue. When Bush did it, it was on other things just to assert, their autonomy. But this one is really raising a lot of eyebrows.
Okay, well, we're just going to have to table that for the time being and let Mr. Issa continue to do his job. But California...
And he will.
Yeah, and he's certainly playing a significant role here. Can we go back and maybe talk about local politics here for a couple of seconds?
Plenty of that.
Too big of a twist here? Boy, once this primary got over with, the mayor's race sure quieted down.
Yes and no. I attended a debate in the general, which I was surprised how quickly. Normally they would wait, etc. But there was one within about 10 days after election night. So it's quieted down in the sense that people do have other things on the agenda other than politics, kids out of school, vacations, etc. But what the candidates are doing now, their main purpose for the next, let's say, 30 to 45 days is fundraising.
Okay, so that's what they're up to now, and then it'll start to heat up again as we get closer to November. Same thing with the congressional races?
No, the congressional race is heating up good because there's one here locally
right,
that, again, has national implications. I mean, they're watching it in D.C. Both political parties are going to be getting involved in this one, and it's going to be tough. 2 good candidates, Brian Bilbray, the incumbent, Scott Peters, former council member and current port commissioner. That's the real hot one. The Democratic Party has said that they're going to help them. They just put them on, one of the top target lists. So that's going to be the Donnybrook of all time.
All right. Well, let's swing back to national politics since we've got a couple more minutes here. Mitt Romney took a very unusual step, whether the average citizen realizes how unusual this is or not, for him to come out and say, we are vetting Marco Rubio thoroughly as a vice presidential candidate. Normally, they don't comment on who is even under consideration. Why did he feel compelled to come out and say, when a network came out and said, they're not looking at Marco Rubio, he was compelled to come out and say, oh, yes, we are. Why would you even do that?
As you've heard me say many times in politics, as in many parts of life, in politics, perception becomes reality. And it's rumor control going around. Now, keep in mind, the reason rumors start in politics is everybody has a vested agenda. Some people want them out of the running, et cetera, for their candidate, and some people want them in, and those are the rumors that are circling around. However, here's what the interesting thing is. I don't know what's going on as far as the possibility of Marco Rubio, but the one who's all of a sudden jumping up, who I thought was way at the bottom, is Tim Pawlenty. And that, I got to tell you, right now, the rumor is that's going to be the odds-on favorite. That might be the guy. And any particular reason why? For numerous reasons. First of all, again, with the rumors about Rubio and several other candidates, is perhaps the vetting revealed something that they don't have to make public, but all of a sudden they're backing off of some people, and Pawlenty's coming across as clean as a hound's tooth. And that's sort of what it's all about. You don't want your vice president to hurt you, and you hope that he might be able to help a little bit. You just nailed the #1 criteria for a vice president is that they do you no harm. Do no harm. It's like the Hippocratic Oath for doctors. All right, political analyst John Dadian. Have a great weekend. Plenty to talk about next week. Very good. Good to see you, Mark. See you then. You too.